about me. If it's green, I'm gonna wear it. I have two brothers, one of which also has red hair. The other one looks more like my parents, who are both Mexican American. I grew up in Southern California, so I'm more familiar with Anaheim Disneyland than I am Orlando, but I'm a fan of both. I've run a lot of races in both. I've run a lot of races in general. I love half marathons and full marathons, and today we are talking specifically about the Disneyland Halloween Half Marathon weekend. I ran the half and the 10K, and it was very exciting because this is a new kind of theme for Run Disney in that it's a Halloween themed race, which is really exciting because it switches it up. It's something fresh. I also ran the half marathon in January, and this was completely different. I was extra excited about this Halloween themed weekend because I used to go to Disneyland all the time when it was decorated for Halloween and for Christmas, because in college I had a long-term boyfriend who was obsessed with The Nightmare Before Christmas. And if you're not familiar, around this time, they completely do over the Haunted Mansion to be Nightmare Before Christmas themed. And it's this very fun switch up to this ride that's usually always the same. The songs are fun, the theme is fun, the characters are fun, and that was a huge part of the character themes for this weekend. I have dressed like Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas before. Actually, before we get into costumes, let's talk about the 10K because that was a different thing. So 5K, 10K, half marathon were part of this race weekend. I think the 5K was Chip and Dale themed. The 10K was the Haunted Mansion. So I dressed like a ghost host. That's basically the people that help you get on and off the ride, the people in line that work at the Haunted Mansion ride. That was a super easy one to do because I got a sparkle skirt that was that perfect stripy design for it, had a dark green tank top, and I made the headpiece out of two lacy bows and a headband. Easy peasy. Now, one of the most important things to know about all of the races that happened over this weekend is there was a massive heat wave happening in Southern California that impacted all of the races, all of the runners, because it was just so dramatic, so hot, out of nowhere too. So even if you're local, you were not acclimated to this weather. Again, I'm from Southern California. I know that it gets hot here, but it was super mild all summer, all year so far. And I don't remember it being this hot within the last calendar year. Like maybe there was one heat wave last summer that got like this, but there were just days and days of over 100 degrees. And another thing is in SoCal, most of the time, it will be hot during the day, but the mornings and the evenings cool off. So it's like that desert weather where it doesn't, because it's not humid, it doesn't hold on to the heat. So when the sun goes down, it's cooler, or before the sun comes up. So for the most part, when there are races in the morning, it's significantly cooler than it's gonna get for the high of that day. Because it had been days on end of this heat, because it was more humid than it usually is here anyways, no, it was relentless. It felt like it was so hot. Every time you would go outside, like it just was very jarring. And again, no one was acclimated to it. And this actually reminds me that someone passed away. This man named Caleb passed away during the half marathon, and he is a SoCal local. And just days before, I saw this after the race, there was so much info popping up about this because it was so tragic. Because it's tragic when anyone passes, but it was just very ominous because he had just taken his dog for a walk like days before, and he was like, it is so hot, I'm worried about this. Like, and again, he was originally from Texas, living in SoCal long term. Like he realized it was so hot that people were talking about if they're going to cut the course short, cancel the race. And I was really paying attention because that is not something that happens here. I know that sometimes, actually it happened in January where they had to, in Orlando, cut the half marathon short because of thunderstorms. Most of the time when they're cutting a race course or having to cancel a race, it's for extreme weather, like something that is stormy and dangerous for other reasons, like hurricane winds or lightning, anything like that. That's not usually a thing here. Like weather doesn't impact, knock on wood, doesn't impact SoCal flights or just like events most of the time. Like we're so lucky, but this was just more, it was hotter than I have seen in so long. And it just was a concern and potentially dangerous. So people were encouraged to keep it in mind. They sent out emails with heat advisories. They were updating people. So in general, just if you are watching other people's race recaps, just keep in mind that at this point, now that we're past the race and we're recovered and rested, it might get lost in things, but it was rough because it was just so hot and really out of nowhere. Okay, I'm doing a recap of the 10K and the half marathon together because I feel like for the most part, it's very similar what I would say anyways in terms of the start line, the porta potty situation, the setup, the race course for the first 6.1 miles, all of that. I would also like to remind everyone that Disneyland and Walt Disney World are very different. It's weird to even compare those two parks because if you're familiar, you realize they're so different. There is so much more going on at Disney World in Florida because there's a lot more space. So they have a lot more to work with. And that kind of is applicable here because if you're familiar with running races in Orlando where there's a ton of space, you're always on park property, there's a lot more photo ops, and you come here expecting the exact same thing, you're gonna be disappointed. So I already knew that. Like, Disneyland in Anaheim is more my hometown course in comparison. So I wasn't disappointed. I'm really just excited to be able to do any of this. And the 10K course was amazing because of the fact that you are running through California Adventure first and then Disneyland for most of the race. With the half marathon, after you go through these parks, you run around Anaheim, and it's kind of cool because you get to go through Angel Stadium, which I really loved, but there's just less opportunity, right? It's not like after you run through one park and another park, there are multiple more parks you can run through. That's not the case here. So the 10K course is the way to go. Like, if you were watching this because you were on the fence and you're like, I kind of want to run a Run Disney race, I would say do the 10K. Do the 10K because you get to see so much of the parks and enjoy it more than I think the 5K would just go by too fast and you wouldn't be able to see the same amount of things. So I'm a big proponent specifically for Run Disney. In general, the half marathon is my favorite distance if I'm just running a race. But I think Run Disney 10Ks are so great because it's just like tons of fun, tons of photo ops. And in general, all these races are very fun and everyone's happy and having a good time, you know, when it's not 104 degrees. Highlights of the 10K are running through California Adventure. When you turn the corner and you see the Ferris wheel in the distance all lit up, it's still dark because the race starts early, and you run up Paradise Pier and there are a lot of lights on and some of the rides are going. It's magical. There's no other word for it. It's magical. Everyone's excited. You can hear people just like gasp, and it's just, it was great. Also, running through that Cars Land area, I think it's called Radiator Springs, with the neon lights on. There are all of these trees that have these pink, purple, twinkly lights. They're just like a lot of really pretty photo ops, actually. There weren't a ton, and again, if you're comparing this to Orlando races, of character photo stops, but there are some. And some of them, you have to hand someone your phone, you take a picture with your own phone. Some of them, there is a photo pass person taking the photos. Sometimes people were just asking other runners, asking a cast member, anything like taking selfies, but you make it work. After you run through California Adventure, you run across that quad area into Disneyland through the front gates. And after you cross under that little train underpass thing, you're running down Main Street. And like I said, it's very decorated for Halloween, so there's tons of fun decorations. And one of the best ones is that huge Mickey jack-o'-lantern. That is usually where the tree is. It looks so pretty when it's dark and that's all lit up. From there, you run down Main Street and you see the castle all lit up. It's very gorgeous, it's very exciting, and some people are stopping to take pictures, again, to take selfies. There's this very happy vibe, and I feel like everyone, because they're in a good mood for the most part, they're just like happy and patient. If you're gonna stop and take pictures, I would just say to put your hand up. There are a lot of people doing the run-walk method, and if you're not familiar with that, if you're running and you wanna stop to walk for whatever reason, you put up your hand so that anyone behind you gets the heads up that you're about to stop and walk. For the 10K, you run through the castle, but you go in straight from the front. So it's like you were coming down Main Street and wanted to go through the castle to go to Fantasyland. For the half marathon, it is opposite. It's cool to experience both because I ran, again, the 10K and the half. It was fun to run that way. I think the experience-wise, it's more fun to run through the castle, like straight from the front. But the pictures running out of the castle the opposite way for the half marathon, it kind of makes for a better photo op. So there are pros and cons to both. For the 10K, after you run through the castle, there's the carousel right there. It's all lit up, it's on, it's spinning. I ran into a bunch of different followers during this race, and I ran into one right then. Like, it was fun to be like, oh, hey, say hi to someone. You feel like you know people. The demo ride was also on. It was still dark at this point, so I didn't get a ton of great pictures and video. The ones that I did get, I am putting up here so that you can see. But there was, when you're there, when you're experiencing it, I don't know how much the photos and video, again, because it was dark, do it justice. It was gorgeous and it was fun. Overall, I think it's a great course. I think it was super fun. 10 out of 10K would recommend. This is the 10K shirt. I rarely get my size in a race shirt because at this point, like with these medals, I have so many race shirts. So a while back, I started getting either a men's size and I would give it to my brothers or my boyfriend, or just a bigger size so I could use it as like a warm-up shirt before a race, something like that. But this is a woman's 2X. And all of the shirts are the same size. When you register, you just say one size. It's not like, and you don't know what the shirts are going to look like anyways, because I would have run in this shirt. First, the 10K. This is the 10K shirt. It's dark gray. And it has the characters, like I said, the Haunted Mansion is the theme for this race. These are sponsors on the back. This is the half marathon shirt. Like I said, the theme for this one was Minnie, Daisy, and their friend that, I don't know her, dressed as the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. And for this race weekend, the challenge was running the 10K and the half marathon. And they called it the Chills and Thrills Challenge. And the theme for that was the characters from Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Sully, there's 0 on here, and it says 19.3 miles. That's what that would add up to. The math is mathing. Sponsors on the back as well. What I really wanted to show you is the half marathon medal. This is such a fun one. It kind of looks like a door knocker from like a spooky house. And it has a little magnet right here. It has a little magnet, so it kind of pulls it down. If you pull it up a little bit, like it won't stay up. So it does really click. But this is for the 10K. And since we're talking about it, this was the half marathon medal. And you can kind of see through this little blue part. It's almost like one of those church windows. I know there's another word for that. Just roll with it. And the challenge medal was so cool. So it was Nightmare Before Christmas themed. And on one side, it has this little movable element. On one side, it is Jack, and on one side, it is Sally. Okay, let's talk about the half marathon, specifically my costume veil, because just do better, Monica. Like, I can do better than this. I loved the theme from the challenge and immediately knew. Like, I have thought about being Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas in the past because I love being a character that has red hair. Like, this is something, when you grow up where I grew up, and everyone's like, oh, when I met my best friend in first grade, she saw me, she was like, we always talk about this, how she went back home and she told her mom, I met this girl at school and she has orange these and orange these, and she pointed to her eyelashes and her eyebrows because she had never seen so much. She's like, check out this weirdo. That weirdo was me. I love being a character that naturally has red hair. Like, I feel like I feel them. I feel their struggle. I feel their pain of being teased growing up. So I was like, yes, I'm going to be Sally for this race. I had wanted to be her before, but I was waiting for the right moment, right? I was going to commit to this bit. Like, I am all in with costumes that I'm like, yes, love it. Let's do it. I'm going to be all in. So my original plan was to run as Sally with my hair down, like full on with my hair down, which is wild because I know better. I've done it before, specifically twice before, but only for 5Ks. So one time I was Ariel, ran with my hair down because I was like, this is like a notable thing about her character, right? Her hair. Ran with my hair down as Ariel. It's so uncomfortable, especially when I'm just used to not having that discomfort. And I did the Dopey challenge, and for the 5K, I dressed as Merida. Ran with my hair down as well because I thought that was like, this is something that is significant about her as a character. And I thought this would really work for Sally because her hair kind of is, it looks a little greasy. Like, it's not like this Ariel hair. So I was like, it's fine if it's like, ends up being sweaty by the end of the race. Like, that's fine because for a 10K, like, it's not gonna look great at the end. But that's more her vibe, right? I was gonna run with my hair down. I was gonna put the scars on, like she has scars on. I was gonna wear blue nylons. Like, I have seen people do this so well because her skin is kind of blue hued, blue nylons with scars on them, hair down, full whatever, with the sparkle skirt. So that was plan A. And then I started to hear people talk about the weather, that it was gonna be hot for the race. My mom knew that I had this race coming up, and she said something about like, oh, the heat wave. And then I started to feel like, what's going on here? This is a lot hotter than usual. And I realized how much hotter. So started to backtrack on like maybe I shouldn't put like full on stockings, body stocking situation, or it wasn't a body stocking, but I was gonna like full on put nylons on my arms as well and on my legs. I'm like, okay, maybe not. And then for the 10K, like maybe I'll just run with my hair how I usually have it. Like, okay, but those were the only concessions that I planned on making. I had the super cute patchwork sparkle skirt, obsessed with, and I'd ordered a shirt that was like a patchwork Sally shirt. And I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. It's still gonna look like Sally. Like my costume is going to be very Sally. After running the 10K and just realizing how hot it was, like I was fine for the 10K, but I realized that I was just drenched in sweat so quickly, so short into the race. And I started to have second thoughts about the shirt even, because it wasn't a running shirt. It was just a t-shirt, like a Sally design cotton tee or whatever. And I just was like, after the 10K, I realized how sweaty I was with sweat wicking gear. And so I laid out my flat runner, completely planning on still doing the Sally situation. And race morning, and Disney races start at 5 a.m. I was like, no, I should wear a running tank top. Like, you shouldn't wear this shirt. You're gonna hate yourself. You should wear a running tank top. So I switched it out, super last minute, which is just out of character. And I just feel like I didn't do it justice. Like, it wasn't as cute as it could have been. I wish I would have saved this costume idea for another race and just worn running gear, maybe some Mickey ears with it for this race and like a sparkle skirt. But I feel like this idea was wasted on this race because it was just ended up being so hot. I feel like I made the smarter decision in what I decided to wear, but I'm just bummed about it because like I could have done it so good. Okay, this is already longer than I thought it was gonna be, so let me just hit you with some of the notable things, highlights and lowlights from the half marathon. I had done the 10K the day before, so everything ran so smoothly to like getting there, parking, porta potty, start line, like everything was great. So I timed it up the same for the half marathon, and that either wasn't the smart thing to do or there was just something else that happened traffic-wise because there was a lot more traffic, so it took me longer to park and to get to the starting line. And so by the time I did, the porta potty lines were so long, I didn't have time, and I just like was fine. This wasn't an issue for the 10K. And I wasn't late by any means, but the porta potty lines were so long. And I always have a nervous pee before a race. Like I will keep, if I just have time to wait, like I'm gonna go pee because like I'm just nervous. Like I feel like maybe I do, maybe I don't. Why don't you just try it? Anyways, the lines were way too long. So I figured that's fine. I just got into the start corral and figured I would go in the parks because that's another great thing about Disney races is when you're running through the theme parks, the restrooms inside the parks are open and they're so much nicer than the porta potty. So I was like, oh, that's fine. But I think like I didn't even end up having to go because I think my body just probably sweated it out, which, listen, running isn't glamorous. It's gross and it's hard, but I love it, okay? So it is what it is. But it was just like, it seemed a lot more crowded and a lot more stressful race morning in terms of getting there, start line, lines, all of that. The half marathon course was very similar to the 10K course, but after the first half, you run around Anaheim and it is dark. There's not a ton to see until you get to Angel Stadium, which is super cool to run through. Like you run under the big A and you run around the stadium, and there was a guy there that was announcing and they were showing people up on the Jumbotron. After you are a couple miles outside of the parks and like energy starts to lull, it was just like such a great and exciting pick-me-up and I really loved it. And then from there you're kind of heading back towards Disneyland property and back towards the finish line. So the second half of the race actually went by pretty quickly. I did things differently than I would do for a normal Disney race or a normal half marathon. They had aid stations every mile with Powerade and water. I walked through most of the aid stations to make sure that I was able to get in a good drink and not just spill it all over myself. They had sport beans along the course, and then there were some spectators handing out other candy or things. This is one of the times in life where you're supposed to take candy from strangers. I ended up taking some pictures and video, but not nearly as many as I usually would for a Run Disney race. for a couple of reasons. One, I'd run the 10K the day before, so I took some pics and videos there. And also, I really just wanted to try and get in the zone because I knew as the day went on and as the sun came out, like it was just gonna get hotter and hotter. So I knew that I couldn't just take my time with this because I didn't want to be out in the sun. Actually, in part because I was going to be out in the sun later that day for a family member's birthday. So we had rented this water slide that I knew was going to be in my parents' yard. We were keeping it super small. And so I needed it to be fun. Like it was an important part of this process. And I wanted to like have fun with my nieces with this water slide situation, which actually I got hurt. I was the first one down. I slathered myself, well, with help, in sunblock, as one does when they've already been out in the sun running half marathon and now we're going to be in the sun again and they have no business being in the sun. I have self-tanner on now. Like this is where we're at. Anyways, so I went down probably before the sunblock really had time to like dry and get in. I went down so fast that I like, my arm, I guess, just like touched the side of some part of Velcro. Like this is like a while out and I still, it was rough. Like I tried to act like nothing because I didn't want to scare my nieces because one of like might be, you know, like I knew it was going to be an effort to even get her to go down the first time. But then one of my nieces was like, Nina, you're bleeding. And I was like, shit, let's just keep it cool. But also internally I was like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. But we're all okay. We're all stronger for it, right? Overall, I love the race. I love all Disneyland races. I'm so glad they're back. Please, I hope they make more. If you ran this race, let me know what was your experience. What was your favorite thing about it? If you have any questions, please ask. Until then, have a great time.